Shin Ultraman has become the most successful Ultraman motion picture of all time. Even with its Japanese release winding down, the Silver Giant will soon be making his international debut at film festivals in Toronto and New York. What's next for Shin Ultraman? Will there be a follow-up? In this video, we explore the groundwork laid out by screenwriter Hideaki Anno for a proposed Shin Ultraman Trilogy. Beware, this contains spoilers. And also, please like and share this video, subscribe to Monstrosities here on YouTube, and consider joining our Patreon today. It is through the support of viewers like you that allows the creation of content like this. In 2010, the Fields Corporation acquired a 51% share of Tsuburaya Productions, of which they shared ownership with alongside toy company Bandai. Now, under the leadership of Fields chairman, president, and group CEO Hidetoshi Yamamoto, the Ultraman franchise began a global expansion. It pushed further into mainland Asia circa 2010, saw a larger domestic push in Japan in 2013, and then made an overseas expansion in 2016. On the expansion strategy, Tokusatsu Network pointed out that, due to Japan's lowering population, expected to shrink between 120 million to 90 million by 2050, plans are in place to generate a more global reach, exporting brands and characters to North and South America, as well as the rest of Asia and Europe. Takayuki Sukagoshi became president of Tsuburaya Productions in August of 2017 at the request of Hidetoshi Yamamoto. With 26 years of experience working as a distributor for Disney, Sukagoshi was a great fit for the globally conscious direction that Ultraman was flying into. Mr. Yamamoto told me that he wanted to make Tsuburaya Productions a global company like Disney that would provide entertainment from Japan to the rest of the world, Sukagoshi told Figure King magazine. According to Sukagoshi's interview with Kinema Junpo magazine, several Ultraman-related projects were already on the table by the time he arrived at Tsuburaya. None of these, however, satisfied the newly appointed president. This included an Ultraman movie project that had been in development for some time, the project that would eventually become Shin Ultraman. However, the project was not progressing as well as we had hoped, Sukagoshi revealed. Tsuburaya Productions has been developing programs mainly for children. But if we were going to broaden the scope of our entertainment to include adults, like Disney, a reboot of the original Ultraman would be the most appropriate. Sukagoshi and Yamamoto eventually agreed that Hideaki Anno should be approached to helm the Ultraman project. Sukagoshi had been introduced to Anno through a mutual friend, Toshio Suzuki, a producer at Studio Ghibli, and the two had always wanted to do business together. Here was the perfect opportunity. For one, Anno's adoration for Ultraman is known the world over. And then there was also that little fact that Anno was commercially red hot, having just come off the gigantic success of Shin Godzilla. This was the summer of 2017, so Shin Godzilla had already been released, said Sukagoshi to GQ Japan. I think we would have made the offer whether or not Shin Godzilla was in theaters, but seeing Shin Godzilla firsthand was a big factor in convincing me that Ultraman would be a great entertainment film as well. This was not the first time that Tsuburaya Productions had approached Hideaki Anno. Several projects had been pitched to him during the tenure of Shinichi Ooka, who had served as president of Tsuburaya starting in 2008 before he stepped down to a supervisor position in 2017. But, for various reasons, and because I did not have the time to make a live-action film, I turned them down, Anno said in his Shin Ultraman Design Works interview. Among these potential projects was a movie reboot of Tsuburaya's classic Mighty Jack series. Anno actually started drafting ideas for this, but he later scrapped them after realizing such a creative venture would likely not be commercially viable. Then, in December of that same year, Anno started work on the remake of The Return of Ultraman, asking Kazuki Nakashima to write the script. Nakashima was the editor of the Getter Robo Saga manga and had previous screenwriting experience on anime and tokusatsu, including titles like Kill La Kill, Batman Ninja, Ultraman Max, Geki Ranger, as well as Kamen Rider Double and Fourze. The first draft of the Return to Ultraman script was submitted to Tsuburaya Productions on March 19, 2014. I read the script to some friends and their reactions were positive, Anno said of the Return of Ultraman reboot. But at the time, I was not able to finalize the content of the project in a way that satisfied me, so it was abandoned. In November of 2017, President Sukagoshi reached out to Anno with an offer to plan and direct a trilogy of Ultraman films. Anno, who was heavily involved in the production of the next Evangelion rebuild film, did not immediately accept the job. But, taken by Sukagoshi's pitch for the project, as well as realizing this might be the only chance he may have at being officially involved with the Ultraman franchise, Anno decided to play ball. He went to work and wrote a series of proposal documents for his idea for an Ultraman film trilogy. The documents included an overarching Tsuburaya Productions Theater Trilogy Planning Proposal Memo, that's a mouthful, along with a Shin Ultraman Planning Memo and a Shin Ultraman Sequel Planning Memo. Anno did not create a production pitch for the third movie at the time. Mr. Sukagoshi's order was for a trilogy, but since the production of the third film was quite far in the future, I suggested that we make 2 films first and then consider whether or not to continue with the order, Anno said. Of the 3 production documents, 2 have been included in the Shin Ultraman Design Works book, including the Ultraman Trilogy Planning Memo. The scant 2-page document starts with Anno's planning intention, which states the importance of returning to the franchise's roots with a reboot of the original Ultraman. Our goal is to create a world of Ultraman that is not for children, but for the generation that watched the show at the time, and that adults now want to see. We aim to create entertainment for adults that is consistent with the modern age, a coexistence of dreams and reality that can only be achieved through the use of tokusatsu. The next paragraph is an interesting one, which seemingly hints at an overarching theme in the films. To achieve this goal, we will draw an interesting work that emphasizes quality and sensibility, the listening with the theme of invasion rather than catastrophe. The film depicts the state of the Japanese people, who are vaguely concerned about an invasion that they do not really feel. Invasion? Keep this in mind, we'll dive back into this in a minute. The document goes on, mentioning the need for a strategic plan to keep the hardcore fans happy, an aim to create a realistic setting through special effects, and so on. It then dives into how the Kaiju would be depicted. Monsters as giant creatures artificially manufactured as biological weapons. A lengthy list then follows, noting how the Kaiju bioweapons would be utilized, everything from reconnaissance to celestial destruction. The invasion angle mentioned earlier suddenly takes on a whole new dimension when thinking about Kaiju as weapons. Certain creatures, like Zeton, are most certainly portrayed as weapons in the final version of the film. The biological weapon description has also been tossed around quite a bit by the filmmakers when discussing Kaiju like Pagos, Neronga, and Gabora. Nothing in the memo indicates who the invaders are, but for some reason I can't stop thinking about this old Ultraman 1966 press photo where Ultraman is tangling with Neronga, and there in the back is Bolton, almost seemingly implying that it is he who is the master of the beast Neronga. Super dumb fan theory. Let's move on. The trilogy then lists an estimated budget for each film, 800 to 9 million yen per entry, before concluding with a breakdown of Anno's Shin Ultraman Trilogy. Part 1, Shin Ultraman, tentative title, to be released in 2020. Script and producer, Hideaki Anno, director, Shinji Higuchi. Part 2, sequel to Shin Ultraman, tentative title, theatrical film to be released in 2022 or later. Script, director, and producer, Hideaki Anno planned. Part 3, Shin Ultraseven, tentative title, theatrical film or series of episodes, to be released in 2023 or later. Staff, undecided. Anno listing himself as the writer, director, and producer for the Shin Ultraman sequel actually makes a lot of sense. The Shin Ultraman Trilogy is a series of 3 films that disassemble and reassemble the Return of Ultraman plot memo I wrote back in 2013 and adds a prequel and sequel to the plot, Anno revealed. Considering how much Return of Ultraman means to Anno, it's appropriate that he would want to helm the film that is essentially the spiritual reincarnation of his failed Return of Ultraman project. For Shin Ultraseven, it is interesting that it is listed as a potential 3rd film or television series. Anno does mention that a TV option was on the table when he met with Sukagoshi to discuss the job. Mr. Sukagoshi asked me to consider a series of 3 films for 2020, whether theatrical films or a series, in any format, and, if possible, to make a series of 3 films about Ultraman. The trilogy documents were officially submitted to Tsuburaya President Sukagoshi at a meeting held on January 23, 2018. Sukagoshi has stated in multiple publications that Anno's pitch fell directly in line with what he had wanted for the project. Mr. Anno wrote a plot on 4 to 5 sheets of A4 paper. When I read it, I just thought, wow, The TV program Ultraman is a 30-minute episode. It should be difficult to turn that into a 2-hour movie, but the setting, the background, and the reason Ultraman is there are precise and exquisite, Tsukagoshi admitted to GQ Japan. So, I never once asked Anno to do something different. Rather, I was surprised to see how much more than what I had in mind was expressed. The film finally hit Japanese theaters on May 13th, 2022. And as of June 27th, 2022, it has garnered 2.69 million moviegoers with a box office revenue exceeding 4 billion yen, the most profitable Ultraman film in Japan's history. Will we see a Shin Ultraman sequel? And if so, will it follow Hideaki Anno's trilogy plans? So far, publicly speaking, there doesn't seem to be an answer. But let's all hope that the Shin iteration of the Silver Giant has many more big screen adventures. Thank you very much for watching. I know this gets old, but it's actually very important. Please consider supporting Monstrosities on Patreon. As little as $1 a month really helps out with the channel's overhead, as well as producing videos like this one. Anyhow, that's gonna be it for now. For Ultraman's sake, keep watching Tokusatsu for the good of mankind and yourselves. We'll catch you soon.